I've listened to Marry Me by St. Vincent for years.
And I listened to it once yesterday.
Welcome to Spin It. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Spin It, the Record Ranking Podcast for people who would rather be listening to music. I'm James, and with me is Connor.
Saint Connor?
Saint Connor, yeah. I don't know, what would you be the saint of?
Peanut butter jelly sandwiches.
The saint of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches? I guess there's probably not one, but I don't think you're a saint of like a thing, like a noun that's tangible. Aren't you more of like a saint of a situation? I don't know.
I don't know how it works. Saint of making peanut butter jelly sandwiches. Saint of eating.
Patron saints are typically associated with specific professions, causes, or places.
Sandwich makers. Saint of sandwich makers.
Patron saint of the sandwich maker. That's good. Well, anyway, St. Connor. I'm going to go out on a limb and say you shouldn't get too used to being called that. But this week we're talking about a different saint, St. Vincent. Is St. Vincent an artist you know at all?
It's a name I recognize.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about her a little bit before. I mean, she performed as part of that, super group that was tributing Quincy Jones at the Grammys this past year. And she's come up a few other times, I think. There's some strong Spin Cycle tie-ins that we'll get into in this episode that I didn't realize until I started researching, but pretty interesting stuff. St. Vincent, her career and her beginnings. But you didn't know any songs then.
Not that I could have named.
Yeah, that makes sense. Honestly, I didn't either. I think once you get outside the couple of St. Vincent albums I have heard, it's like she's not an artist I hear out in the wild very much, to the best of my knowledge.
Probably true.
Much like Connor is not really a saint, St. Vincent is not really a saint.
What?
Nor is she a Vincent.
Whoa.
She is Annie Clark.
At least I only lied about one of the two.
It's true. At least you stuck with the name Connor. St. Vincent. Is it a lie? I mean, it's a stage name. I don't think anybody really thinks her name is Vincent or that she's a canonical saint.
I mean, what is a stage name? Well, I didn't know that her name was Vincent.
Well, touche. I have no rebuttal. This is a strong stage name. Makes you wonder whether she's a Vincent. But she's not. She's an Annie. She was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1982. And much like Reba, St. Vincent is not yet in the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame.
Man.
But as I was once again researching this, do you know who I figured out is in the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame? Twice?
No clue.
No clue. It's somebody we've talked about on this podcast.
It's so many people.
It's somebody you specifically have talked about on this podcast. It's from a song that's on this podcast because of you.
That's still a lot of people.
I know. You're not going to believe it.
I mean, I'm going to believe it unless I don't have any reason to think you're lying to me.
Well, that's true. I'm not St. Vincent. I'm telling you the full truth. But you don't even have a guess?
Not particularly.
Man.
It's going to be someone from Oklahoma, but I can't think of anybody I brought to the podcast that's from Oklahoma.
What if I told you that she was 6?
Well, that does narrow it down. That she was 6. She's 6. Wait, is it the chick that sings I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas?
It is Gayla Peavy, the girl who sang I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas. She's in the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame twice.
Fantastic.
Reba is not in there. St. Vincent's not in there. The All-American Rejects are in there twice. Gayla Peavy
Nuts.
wants a hippopotamus for Christmas, but she does not want to be inducted into the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame. She's already there.
Unless she wants to get in there a third time.
Whoa, triple crown.
Go for the hat trick.
Is Gayla Peavy, is she alive?
I have no idea. Doesn't stop them from putting her in there posthumously if she's not.
She's 82 years old. She could still get in a third time. Although it does say former singer on her Wikipedia.
What if she released an updated version of it? What if she, how old did you say?
But she's 82. Like, what if it's all about how she got a hippopotamus for Christmas and it went horrible?
We have the 6-year-old and the 82-year-old version of the song.
There's two ways I could see that going. The 82-year-old version either has to be, I got a hippopotamus for Christmas, finally, and this is all the ways it's terrible, or it needs to still be I Want a Hippopotamus for Christmas, but with like her kids or grandkids going, whatever, you old woman.
Yeah,
okay, Grandma.
My grandkids say it would eat me up, but then Google says the hippo is a vegetarian. Like, it's all modernized.
Anyway.
What a tangent.
What a tangent. I just couldn't resist. I found that information and I couldn't resist. The Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame baffles me.
It's a very elite, exclusive club.
I guess. But when you're in, you're really in. Multiple times.
Dude, what if we get in before Reba?
I mean, at this point, it's my goal. I don't know how, but I mean, we have a pretty good shot so far. Anyway, St. Vincent grew up in Oklahoma, but she moved to Dallas, Texas with her mother following her parents' divorce. As a kid, musically, she was a big fan of Richie Valens, and especially of La Bamba. You know La Bamba.
No La Bamba.
Yeah.
I am La Bamba's best friend.
Solid. It's a classic. But she loved Richie, and her mom actually gave her a guitar from Target for Christmas. Suddenly, a rising star was born. St. Vincent, maybe she's the saint of the guitar. Maybe she's the saint of the Vincent.
No. Dude, saint of the like the profession of Vincent?
Yeah, or just all Vincents. Patron saint of Vincent. So like Van Gogh, other people named Vincent. I actually don't know too many people with the first name Vincent, but that's okay.
Really?
Not off the top of my head.
Vincent Piazza, right?
That sounds like a real name.
Oh, and Vincent D'Onofrio, the actor?
I've not heard of any of these Vincents.
Oh my gosh. You'd recognize Vincent D'Onofrio. Have you seen Full Metal Jacket? Actually, you maybe haven't seen Full Metal Jacket.
No, I haven't seen Full Metal Jacket.
Have you seen Men in Black? He's in Men in Black.
No, I've never seen Men in Black.
Have you seen any of the trailers for the Daredevil show?
No.
Ever? Like the Netflix version or the Disney Plus
No.
season that just came out? He plays Kingpin in that.
I've seen them just as much as Daredevil himself.
Wasn't Alice Cooper born Vincent?
Oh, well, wouldn't you know that? Yeah. Vincent Furnier.
Trying to think of any other Vincents I know.
They're scarce, is the point.
I mean, I don't know about that. I just named off quite a few from the top of my head.
Well, they're scarce for me.
There's one more I'm thinking of, but I have to look it up to see if it's correct.
Well, there's like Vince Guaraldi of the Charlie Brown songs. Vince Guaraldi Trio. Probably short for Vincent.
Oh, yeah, that's... Hang on. Let me double check. I thought so. Oh, his middle name is Vincent, but he goes by Vince.
Whoa.
I think it counts. Vince Gilligan, the writer or creator of Breaking Bad.
Oh.
That was the first one I thought of, actually, when you said, like, when we were talking about famous
Patron saint of Vince's.
Yeah, I was sitting there thinking, I was like, didn't I see the name Vincent pop up at the beginning of every episode of Breaking Bad? I had to look it up. It's Vince Gilligan. It's actually George Vincent Gilligan Jr. Oh, Vince McMahon of WWE fame.
I think I've seen him in a meme or two.
I guess what I'm learning? I know a lot of Vincents.
I'm learning that I don't. I thought I did. Our trajectories are opposite today.
There's a like a Venn diagram of like Vincent's you know and Vincent's I know, and there's a very small overlap.
Yeah, and it keeps shrinking. I guess my circle just keeps shrinking, really.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's probably the patron saint of all them. But she's still a kid at this point, learning to play her little Target guitar. By the time she was a dozen, that is 12 years old, she was playing real guitar and taking lessons. She played in her high school jazz band. She even worked out a gig as a roadie for her aunt and uncle. And her aunt and uncle were actually famous in their own right. They were a touring jazz duo called Tuck and Patty. Lots of jazz influences going in. St. Vincent's getting a lot of jazz education. And she decided to stick with music through college, too. She ended up going to Berklee College of Music in Boston, where she studied for 3 years and then actually dropped out. She said, I think that with music school and art school, or school in any form, there has to be some system of grading and measurement. The things they can teach you are quantifiable. And while all that is good and has its place, at some point you have to learn all that you can and then forget everything that you learned in order to actually start making music. And make music she did. In 2003, she put out an EP with her classmates with the palindromic title, Rats Live on No Evil Star.
Oh, that's a cool one.
It's a cool palindrome. It's very much more involved than race car, taco cat, right? That's my general level of palindrome.
Dude, I like Taco Cat. I'm a big fan of Taco Cat.
Yeah, it's Rats Live on No Evil Star. If our podcast was a palindrome,
That's what I'd want it to be.
well, no,
The Rats Live on No Evil Star podcast.
that's pretty good. Let's see. Hold on. Oh, our podcast would be Spin It Podcast Sad Dop to Nips. That's not very good.
It's not. We'd have to rethink the name.
Probably. But she also, after Rats Live on No Evil Star, she joined up with a few touring bands and participated in a 100-guitar orchestra, which is so cool. And she even, here's the big spin cycle reveal, she joined Sufjan Stevens' touring band in 2006.
Oh.
That's right after he put out Illinois, which we did a big long episode on episode 84 about that album.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty cool. And I mean,
I was Illinois.
Illinois. No, you liked Illinois.
I did like Illinois.
You might have been annoyed. Maybe. The mixtaper was in a different state.
I just wanted to make that pun.
Of course. Honestly, I can hear a lot of that. Like, I think about a lot of the things I liked about Illinois and a lot of Sufjan Stevens' instrumental arranging style. I hear a lot of the same sort of thing happening on Marry Me, to a bit of a lesser extent. But, like, the influence and the compatibility between the two of them is really clear. I really like that tie-in. It made this whole album make a whole new kind of sense to me. Because I listened to this before I even knew Illinois, I think. So it was cool to kind of fill in those blanks retroactively. But as she is working with Sufjan Stevens, she's also striking off on her own. This is the time where she came up with the stage name St. Vincent. Now, again, not a saint, not a Vincent, but a big fan of Dylan Thomas, right? The poet.
Also not a saint or Vincent.
No, but he is dead. And St. Vincent was the name of the New York hospital where he died. So there. And also, St. Vincent may be Annie Clark's grandma's middle name. I saw one or two sources that claimed that, but I couldn't find anything that I was like super happy with being authoritative. So putting it out there with the disclaimer that may not be true. And also the Dylan Thomas thing is definitely legit. She's talked about it.
Unless she's a liar.
Well, yeah, but there's no way to know. We just have to trust her. But her first release as St. Vincent was a 3-song EP in 2006 called Paris is Burning. You may recognize that title from a song on this album of the same name. And in fact, it's the same song. But she wasted no time getting to work on her very first LP. Today's album that we're talking about and ranking, Marry Me. That's not a proposal. It's just the name of the album.
Fair enough. What if I want it to be a proposal?
Well, if you do, well, it's not.
But could it be?
Also, no.
What if I said please?
I would say no. But hats off for trying. A for effort.
Honestly, probably more like a B. But I'll take the A if you're got to...
Okay. No. B for effort.
Maybe on a curve, an A.
Yeah, okay.
Compared to like the mixtaper.
Right.
Who probably flunked.
Yeah, that makes sense. Grading two people on a curve is really, really unfair. One's got to win and one's got to lose.
Yeah.
So she gets to work on Marry Me. Marry Me is one of those really interesting albums that I just love. I can't even hardly wrap my head around how people make music like this in the circumstances that they do. Because she wrote and recorded most of Marry Me from her Texas bedroom. Like, I just love a good homemade album.
That's where I do most of our podcast.
Yeah, in your Texas bedroom.
Yeah. I've got a Texas bedroom specifically for recording.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Every week I fly to Texas.
No wonder you travel so much. Man, but it's just so impressive to me what people can do, when they just do it. Just get a little bit of recording equipment, get a few instruments, and learn. Teach yourself to make an album like this. That's so cool. She actually says up to half the record hadn't even been played live before. It was mostly just new stuff that she was just making on her own. It is a really cool record. It's like this gentle sounding indie pop style. But the lyrics are really a standout to me on this album. Like, they do a good job at contorting your brain in a way that just, it feels like it should be incongruous, but it just isn't. She's good at wordplay. She's good at kind of making the emotion of the song ambiguous in a lot of these cases. And a lot of that has to do with the instruments, but a lot of it has to do with just straight up cool lyrics. St. Vincent herself said the songs mostly represented a more idealized version of what life was, or what love was, or anything in the eyes of someone who hadn't really experienced anything. She was just a teenager when she did most of the songwriting for Marry Me, so a lot of these songs kind of reflect an immature perspective, like someone who hasn't experienced stuff, someone who's just figuring it out for the first time. And that's really cool. I also learned, as I was studying and researching this album, I learned the term polysemous.
Polysemous.
Yeah, it may be pronounced differently, but polysemous, it's a term that people use to describe her lyrics, right? The words and phrases usually have multiple meanings. On one hand, they seem happy. On the other, they're fairly sad or they're shocking. And the context, either that she presents you with or that you inject into it, is what gives that phrase its charged imagery. She said, I like when things come out of nowhere and blindside you a little bit. I think any person who gets panic attacks or has an anxiety disorder can understand how things can all of a sudden turn very quickly. I think I'm sublimating that into the music. So that's cool. What an interesting approach to lyric writing. Sort of emotional ambiguity, which you would think kind of would obfuscate what you're trying to do. But actually, I think it makes this whole record a lot more clear and makes it stand out.
Sure.
Sufjan Stevens himself got to hear an early cut of this record, and he loved it. In fact, it earned her the opening slot for him on tour. And that tour stint is what got her a record contract with Beggar's Banquet, who would go on to distribute the record, which I think is a cool full circle story, right? She was inspired by Sufjan, gave him the album, he gave her the tour gave her the record contract for the album that she showed him. That's pretty neat. She named Marry Me after a running gag from the show Arrested Development. Did you know that?
Well, if I didn't really know any of her songs, how could I have known that's what she named the album after?
Well, no, I know, but I didn't know that, and I knew the whole album. I'm just talking when you started thinking about about it for the podcast. It's named after that Arrested Development bit, right? Where
Yeah.
Maybe is too young to be working at her job, and every time someone questions her about her age, she goes,
She just
"Ah,
goes, marry me."
Yeah, they keep telling her she's too young.
Yeah. Funny bit.
It's a funny bit, and it kind of makes this album title way more absurd. Like, I assumed it was just named after the song, and the song kind of came about in a natural song way, but now I think it's the reverse. And she named the album and then wrote the song to go with it. But that's cool. She put the album out on July 10th, 2007, to much critical acclaim. They compared her to Kate Bush and David Bowie, two really strong people to be compared with, to put it lightly.
Yeah, but put it heavily.
Put it heavily?
Yeah.
I don't know how. I don't know how to put it heavier, actually. Two legends to be compared with. Pitchfork ended up giving Marry Me an 8 out of 10. They said the record takes the more challenging route of twisting already twisted structures and unusual instrumentation to make them sound perfectly natural and, most importantly, easy to listen to. And I think that's awesome. That's a key feature of this album, I think, is how easy it is to listen to and how much it naturally flows from one segment of a song into the next, how much sense it makes, in spite of being a little chaotic and a little all over the place. I think the structure of it is really strong. Lots of critics also saw Marry Me as a good harbinger, a good signal of the explosive career St. Vincent was about to have, and boy, were they right. This was just the first step in a long series of steps. She would go on to release 6 more studio albums over the years. Her most recent, All Born Screaming, just came out in April of 2024, which is, a year old at this point. She also released an entire Spanish language translation of the album later that year, which is really cool.
Wow.
All of St. Vincent's albums, except for Marry Me, ironically, have charted on the Billboard 200. But, what can you expect when it's a debut album? People still got to get to know you. But her current highest peak is Mass Seduction, which made it into the top 10. She's also got 9 singles that have landed on various charts in the US, and that's pretty cool. As for her other awards and accolades, St. Vincent has been nominated for a dozen Rober Award music prizes, and she's won 6. She's earned 3 Webby Awards, a Best Album NME Award, a Q Award, and plenty of other things. In 2023, and this is a wild statistic, Rolling Stone ranks St. Vincent the 26th greatest guitarist of all time.
Oh, wow.
26th. Guitarists that are below her that you may know or that might interest you: Keith Urban, Toto's Steve Lukather, Aerosmith's Joe Perry, Eagles' Joe Walsh, Lynyrd Skynyrd's Gary Rossington, Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, John Fogerty, Richie Blackmore from Deep Purple, Les Paul, the guy who pioneered the electric guitar. The Gibson Les Paul is named after Les Paul. He's lower on the list. Robbie Robertson from the band, Scotty Moore, who played in the trio with Elvis, Chet Atkins, the Youngs from AC/DC, Pink Floyd's David Gilmour. All 3 guitar-playing Beatles are ranked lower than St. Vincent. It's almost criminal. And that's not to shortchange her guitar playing, because it's awesome. I'm just saying, that list feels a little rage-baity. All 3 Beatles are below her. Again, guitar-playing Beatles. Sorry, Ringo. But above her, no slouches. I mean, Red Hot Chili Peppers, John Frusciante, Metallica, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Keith Richards, Prince, Carlos Santana, Dwayne Allman, B.B. King, Van Halen, Zeppelin's Jimmy Page. There's a few others up there, but she's number 26. That's the same list that put Snail Mail on there somewhere in like the 250s. But it's interesting. And last but not least, St. Vincent has 6 Grammy wins on 8 nominations, which is a really strong win percentage. Those Grammy wins include Best Alternative Music Album for her self-titled, Best Rock Song for Mass Seduction, Best Alternative Music Album for Daddy's Home, and this past year, at the 67th Grammys, she won Best Alternative Music Album for All Born Screaming, and Best Alternative Music Performance for Flea, and Best Rock Song for Broken Man. You, Connor, you predicted all 3 of those wins correctly. St. Vincent was 8% of your correct Grammy predictions.
Well, that's why I said I knew of her, and I knew that people liked her, so that's why I went with her.
You just went with it. Well, you lucked out. I only got the album right. I guess I underestimated her on the other picks. But anyway, that's what I've got. That's St. Vincent's background. It's the story behind Marry Me. And now it's time to get a little weird with it. Get some more strange facts in there from the patron saint of Dastards, the Mixtaper. I'm going to play some Fact or Spin.
Hey, it's me, the Mixtaper.
Hello, you patron saint of Dastards. How you doing?
I am the patron saint of Dastards, and also coincidentally, pumpkin spice lattes.
Oh, of course. I don't think that's a coincidence at all. In fact, I think it sounds a little contrived.
It might have been a little contrived. Emphasis on the con.
Nice.
Because I'm a liar.
Right. Yeah, I put that together. But thank you for
okay.
explaining it to the audience who maybe didn't.
I have 4 juicy factor spins for you this week.
Ooh, juicy. Is that a clue? Or is that just a thing that you said?
That's just a thing I said.
Not surprised.
She has a voicemail butler.
A voicemail butler? Are you talking about like an automated thing that, you know, when you call like a company and it goes, hello, thank you for calling company. Press 1 for this, press 2 for that, press 3 to hear it in Spanish. Like an automatic call director?
No. As weird as that would be for a person to have, that's still too normal.
That's still too normal. Is this like a person that answers the phone for her?
No, that would make them a phone butler, like someone that answers the phone for her. This is a voicemail butler.
Someone who answers her voicemails? Like when she gets a missed call, they listen to the voicemail for her?
Correct. They screen her voicemails.
What for? Like why?
To make sure she's only hearing voice messages with the right vibe.
The right vibe. So like I've heard of stuff like this before. I mean, you don't have to be like too famous as like a creator of things to need like talent management, right? It's so helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I have one.
You have people?
Yeah, well, I have a gopher.
Oh, that's true. You know what? Didn't even think about him. So I guess you don't have people. You just have a rodent.
Yeah, a literal gopher. Go for this, go for that.
But he's, small and lives in the dirt.
Yeah. I tell him to bring the car around and...
He can't reach the pedals. So, but people who have management teams, they'll have their management field emails and incoming calls and stuff just for the sake of like workload and filtering out stuff that's not important or like, just balance, just like administratively.
Sure. And I'm sure St. Vincent has a team for that stuff.
Oh, certainly. But you're saying this person is on her personal phone and he filters out personal calls to make sure the ones that she hears match the vibe ambiguously.
Yeah, I think it's a female.
Okay.
Voicemail butler.
A butleress.
Butleress. Yeah. So make sure they get the right vibe. Upbeat messages on a good day, or if she's in a fragile mood, calm, neutral tones. Sorts her calls into enthusiastic stuff, urgent business, emotional meltdown things, and then that way she's never caught off guard by what she's about to encounter when she is relayed a message.
Right, she kind of gets to they get like trigger warnings on them a little bit.
Sure.
How many voicemails is she getting that she needs this butler? Like, this kind of implies that she just doesn't answer the phone, right? If I want to know what the call is about to be, I wouldn't answer the phone at all.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem to be the case. She said, I needed an emotional gatekeeper to handle my calls. So that seems, I think you're correct.
Yeah, okay. I think this is a fact. I think it's not dissimilar to other practices I've heard of in this and other industries. So that kind of checks out. Just volume is my really thing. Like, would you really get that many calls that you'd need a butler? But, probably she does. She does a lot of stuff now.
Going with fact on this one.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna roll those dice.
Well, you have rolled Snake Eyes. Is that good or bad, actually? Hang on. Snake Eyes good or bad?
I guess it depends on what you're trying to roll, but Snake Eyes is probably usually bad.
I think usually bad, right? That's what I was going for. Snake Eyes! This is a spin.
Ah, darn it.
Yeah. No voicemail butler.
So what you're saying is, if I called St. Vincent, she'd pick up.
I didn't say that.
I don't know.
She did, however, one time made a short film to preemptively answer mundane interview questions so she wouldn't have to deal with it.
Oh, that's cool.
She called it her interview kit and would just use that short film to answer questions.
Yeah, that makes sense. Probably makes her interviews a lot more interesting than the same people asking the same 7 questions all over the time.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. More people should do that, probably. I just kind of made up voicemail butler. I thought that was a funny name or a funny title.
It is a funny name. It's a funny job in theory. It's an important job in practice, but the title is hilarious.
On to our next fact. She had a controversial performance outfit.
Uh-oh. A controversial performance outfit. That could mean a lot of things. What was so controversial about it? Was it like making a statement? Was it scandalous?
To some.
Some?
She opened a live show once by delivering a sermon in full priest robes, then tearing them off to start the concert.
Oh, that kind of controversy.
Yeah.
I see. Full priest robes?
Mm-hmm. What is it called? Like a cassock or something?
Wow. Vocabulary. Impressive.
I'm learning a thing or two.
I can tell. It's educational. This is an educational show. Well, what sermon is she giving? What's the bit here?
I think the bit is her name is Saint Vincent.
Well, yeah, but like, what's she talk about? I understand the name, but like, what's she say?
Oh, yeah. So apparently the lights in the venue are like dimmed, right? And then a spotlight turns on, and there she is on the stage in front of like a pulpit holding a huge leather-bound book. And then she begins speaking like, "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here tonight in the holy name of rock and roll." And she goes on to talk about the healing power of music and to let the spirit of sound wash over you before ripping off the cassock to reveal a skin-tight futuristic stage outfit and guitar, and then strikes the first chord and all the lights come up and everything begins.
Interesting way to open a show. Is this like a thing that she does? Is this her thing all the time? Was this for a specific tour or show?
This was for... Based on the backlash from some communities, I do not think it became a regular thing.
I see. Yeah, that reminds me of Billy Joel going to war with the Catholic Church. I think this one's a spin.
Ooh, spin.
Yeah, it feels a little on the nose for like a saint kind of tie-in.
It is definitely on the nose.
I just don't know if she leans into the saint thing quite that much. Maybe she does. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just not feeling it.
I'm okay with you saying spin because that means you think I already knew the word cassock.
Well, no, it doesn't mean that. I think you could have very well thought, oh, St. Vincent, maybe she dressed up like a saint or a Catholic priest, and then you just went and found that word. But I do think you probably found the right word, I would guess. In the same way that you found Glaswegians the other week.
This is a spin!
It's a spin! Okay, it's a spin. Untrue. Did you make it up just because her name is Saint?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't resist.
I know. It just doesn't seem like her. This doesn't seem like her vibe.
I almost started with it, but I was like, maybe I'll slip it in as number 2. So if I use it as like 2 spins in a row, right?
Smart.
Maybe that'll be enough to lower the guard on how on the nose it is. It was not. Your guard was up,
Yeah, it was.
and you caught me.
Yeah, I did. You gotta get up pretty early to get one past me again.
Okay, well, hopefully I've set my alarm for an hour earlier. We'll see if that helps me on the next fact.
Uh-oh.
While we're on the topic of stage costumes, she dressed as a giant purple toilet.
Wow, okay. Dressed as a giant purple toilet?
Yeah.
I hope this is true. And it's only giant, I assume, because she's human-sized and not toilet-sized, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, why?
I mean, do you need a reason to be dressed head to toilet bowl?
Head to bowl?
Costume? Head to bowl.
Because head is a
as
synonym
toilet?
for the toilet. That's funny. Very nautical, but funny.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I think you do need a reason. That's my answer to that. You don't need a good reason, but like you need something.
What if the reason was charity?
Charity? Well, that'd be okay.
Is that good enough for you?
Yeah, was the reason charity?
Yeah, it was for a charity gig.
Dressed up like a toilet bowl for charity. Looking for people who are flush with cash to donate a little extra. What charity? What's the cause here?
It was a benefit gig for some sort of seizure group, I think. It just says here that it was to support her drummer, Matt Johnson's young son, Jasper, who was recovering from a severe seizure.
Okay, like a GoFundMe, but not.
I guess.
But what's the point of a toilet? Why are people giving money to a toilet?
Don't know. Not sure.
Confusing. But you just really don't know why? You got nothing?
Yeah, all proceeds went to Jasper's medical fund. I mean, yeah, I really don't know why purple toilet.
That makes it really difficult. It's so ridiculous. I don't want to believe it.
But will you anyway? Or will you play it safe and go spin just to prevent me? Put it this way. If you say fact and this is a spin, you just let me lie to you about a giant purple toilet costume.
That's true.
So you got to decide, are you going to play it safe or be bold? Be bold.
Well, I'm just confused on the reverse psychology of it all now.
Yeah, I think I've confused myself.
Yeah, I can tell. And in that case, the reverse psychology of it all doesn't matter. I think I'm going to say this is a
I can tell? I don't know what that means.
spin.
You can tell what?
That you confused yourself.
Oh, gotcha.
Clearly, it's pretty obvious. Yeah, I think I'm going with spin.
Fair enough. 3 spins in a row. Just looking for the hat trick. This is a true fact.
Is it true fact?
True fact.
I always make you say it twice now because you just randomly said fact spin
I know.
the
I'm
other
sorry.
week. So you really undermined my trust in your first answer. I almost said fact. I really almost did.
Should have been bold. You played it safe.
Let's take a look at this toilet. Oh my gosh. That's a purple toilet, all right. Mm-hmm. That's kind of awesome.
This is how she rolled in 2016. This is her first show of 2016 at New York's Le Poisson Rouge.
Interesting. What a costume.
What a costume.
I wonder how much money it raised. Probably a lot.
Probably. And finally, we end with the neon pink interview cube.
The neon pink interview cube?
Yes.
This is instantly reminding me of the Monkees, who had that giant black monkey box backstage that the directors had to have them jump in so they wouldn't annoy people on set. It sounds like this is just a giant pink, like almost like prefab room that she did interviews in.
Yeah, pretty much exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Did she like...
Well, not that she did interviews in, but yes.
Did interviews... Not in. Okay. Well, what was its relation to these interviews?
No, I guess it was in. I lied. It was in.
Oh, what?
I'm sorry. I lied. It was in.
You're confusing me a lot this week.
I was interpreting it.
You misinterpreted in?
Yeah.
What did you think I meant?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
But for some reason, I interpreted it not as in.
Like it's a hollow cube.
No.
And she steps inside it.
Well, hollow cube?
Yes.
What do you mean? Like yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hollow cube.
What? What's happening? It's a room. It's a big, giant, pink.
I don't know about big. What do you consider big?
Look, it's big in the same sense that the purple toilet she was dressed as is big.
Sure.
Right? It's big enough for her to go inside.
It's bigger than a purple toilet costume.
It's big enough for her to go inside.
Yes.
And when she does an interview, sometimes, she did it inside the cube.
Yes. A neon pink cube.
Right. Is this cube portable? Did they take it places so that all the interviews looked the same? Or did people who wanted to interview her come to the cube?
It just says here that reporters invited to interview her were led to the box.
The box. Okay.
Then they were asked to sign an NDA promising not to spoil the surprise until the album launch, and then literally had to crawl through a small door to enter the cube's womb-like interior.
Oh.
For inside, they found a surreal living room setup drenched in neon pink from the walls to the furniture, with dim lighting and even a droning ambient soundtrack playing. In the center was St. Vincent herself, seated calmly behind a white desk in a latex miniskirt and bra, staring silently as each journalist took a seat amidst the pink glow.
That doesn't sound very portable.
By the way, this wooden box is a 4x4 meter, so about a 13 by 13 box.
A room. Like a, pretty okay sized room.
A small room.
Yeah.
That's two of me laying down.
Yeah. I'm thinking like the size of my bedroom.
Is your bedroom 13 by 13? I feel like your bedroom's bigger than 13 by 13, but maybe not.
Probably not much.
Yeah, probably not actually.
So it's a room with a womb.
Well, just because it's all pink, I guess.
Well, you said it was womb-like.
Well, yeah, because of the pink-like interior. That's just how it was described in this article.
Right. And they had to crawl into this room to interview her.
Yeah.
What a wild fact. I don't know why it was so confusing for you to describe it in a way that made sense.
It's a hard room to describe.
Apparently, the neon pink interview cube. Yeah, cool gimmick. I think this is true. It's a little avant-garde. It's a little artsy. I think I'll go with fact.
Going with fact. For the 50-50, this is a fact.
A fact. I knew you didn't make up the neon pink womb room cube.
Please. Neon pink interview cube.
Yeah, but I think the womb room is funnier.
One BBC journalist said, "She locked me in a pink box and forced me to listen to ambient music while we talked."
That's, man, if you signed up to be a journalist, like if that's your job, you're like, oh my gosh, like how did this happen to me?
By literally boxing herself in, St. Vincent was commenting on the constructed nature of pop personas and media interactions.
Ooh.
Indeed, forcing journalists to perform the role of an interviewer under odd constraints was her witty meta way of turning the tables.
Well, yeah, she could be totally comfortable because she knows what's coming.
Imagine just being like, hey, all right, I'm here to interview St. Vincent, and then being led to a warehouse where you see a giant cube room.
Yeah.
And then they like sign this NDA promising not to spoil the surprise. And then you sign it like, now crawl through that small door and have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be a lot to process.
What a wild day.
No doubt. That's how we'll do it for the podcast if anyone ever wants to interview us. No, we can't steal it directly.
I say we gotta pick a different color than pink.
And maybe a different shape than a cube.
Oh. What shape would you want to do?
Let's do a sphere. So we have to get really close in the middle of it.
I'm just thinking we should like make like a Ouroboros style like circle thing that just like you enter the room and then like you try to leave, but it just sends you in a circle.
Oh, like the stairs in Inception.
Yeah.
That'd be annoying. Yeah, let's do it.
Anyway, that's Factor Spin.
So it is. Thanks for another great week of toilets and cubes. You had a lot of toilet-related facts kind of lately. Between James Brown's bathroom and, getting left at a toilet at a rest stop and Prince making everybody poop on his music videos.
And of course, the most famous toilet fact of all.
The Metallica toilet. But that's ages ago. I'm just saying recently we've seen a real uptick in potty humor. We'll see if the trend continues next week.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, welcome back to St. Connor. Time to talk about more things. 50-50 is always really solid for Factor Spin. I can't believe how often that happens, actually. It's a weird amount of time.
It's really not, I feel like.
Well, I mean, it is the most common probable result.
I was gonna say every round, every question, every supposedly true fact has a 50-50 chance of you getting it right. And so the fact that over 4 rounds, it would come out to be about 50-50 is not that surprising.
No, that's true. Well, let's talk about this album art.
If you insist.
It's so gray. So very gray. It is St. Vincent.
Which gray?
What do you mean, which gray? I don't know all the colors of gray.
Like E or A?
Oh, probably A, because she's American. If she was British, it might be gray with an E.
She has a tendency for gray, I feel like.
What do you mean?
Well, just when I went to go find this album to listen to it, I noticed some other albums that were gray.
Yeah, there are quite a few of them out there.
Marry Me's gray. Strange Mercy's, I guess, white. But Love This Giant has a gray background and gray-haired guy in it.
Yeah.
Daddy's Home is like almost like sepia gray. That kind of gray.
That's true. Not a lot of particularly colorful album titles.
Well, but then you get a lot of orange, too. There's a lot of stuff where, like, she's on fire. It's orange. There's the Nowhere Inn, which has a giant bright orange background. Or red background in Mass Seduction.
Yeah.
Actor is orange. Anyway.
There are a lot of gray.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting way to make color pop.
There's not really that much color other than her lips.
No, I know. Well, they pop.
It's interesting how, like, the shirt pops, even though it's also gray compared to the gray background.
I know, right? It's also, what are the buttons on that shirt? What the heck? They come in twos, and they're so far apart.
Yeah, that is weird. But then the one at the collar one is, like, right next to the top button.
Yeah, it gets to be its own lone button.
Feels unnecessary.
But, like, you'd never button that button, right? That'd be so uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the point of that button is. That happens a lot on like shirts with collars or little like buttons, right? There's always certain buttons that you're like, why would I ever button that button?
Yeah, I'm not a top button guy.
I'm a no button guy.
Whoa, that must be really fun at weddings and formal events.
Yeah, I sew my clothes closed.
Oh, and just put them on like normal? You know what? That actually, why not? Yeah.
Then I rip through it like Superman at the end of the day. Makes me feel powerful.
Well, so we don't know. Superman doesn't really rip through his clothes. He could just take them off in the phone booth.
But there's those ones where he'll like just grab at his collar and pop it open, right?
Yeah.
Which is definitely breaking some buttons.
That's true.
Every night he gets home and has to re-sew all of his buttons on his dress
He
shirts.
spends all his night putting buttons back on his shirt because he ripped it open impulsively.
People at work are like, that's like your 5th shirt today, Clark. What's going on? He's like, I keep spilling soda on myself.
Oh, silly, clumsy me. Well, all these buttons appear to be intact, even if they're not buttoned.
Probably not Superman then.
No, I don't think St. Vincent is Superman. But boy, she's a super songwriter.
That's what they want you to think if they were.
That's a great point. Well, the album kicks off with track 1, Now Now.
As opposed to Later.
Later. Yeah, we're talking about it now. Talking about now.
Now.
It's a very opening track style opening track. It's kind of the way we fade into it really rolls out the welcome mat for this album. Rolls out the carpet we walk on, you know? Those kind of naggy, like, chorus vocals, the group vocals in the back that are call and response. I don't know. There's just kind of a floaty, but, like, eerie feel to this song for me. How did it strike you, Mr. First Time St. Vincent listener?
I was not expecting it to sound like that when I started.
No? What were you expecting? Something more normal?
I don't know what I was expecting.
Well, that's fair.
Just wasn't that.
Yeah.
I liked it though. It was easy to listen to.
That's what I think is true about this whole album. Even in its most like avant-garde and kind of complicated musical moments, it still feels very intuitive. And there's so many moving pieces to Now. There's big fermatas in there. There's brass instruments, there's guitar heavy sections, there's a little synthy arpeggio kind of thing going on the whole time. A lot of ingredients, plenty of vocals, melody that's like broken into several different sections that feel a little incongruous but kind of end up together anyway. But the real question is, did you like it?
What's the genre here?
I always call this more of like an alternative, right? Just
Okay.
yeah, it's a little bit indie poppy, but it's also like alt rocky slightly. It kind of walks that line, right? In the same way that Sufjan Stevens really does. And there's a few other that she reminded me of too that we've talked about, like almost Lana Del Rey at some points on this album.
Yeah, that's fair.
But maybe that's just in her singing style. Like her instrumental style is kind of far from Lana at most points, and that's okay. It's cool.
I didn't mind this track.
No, I like the lyrics. I'm not the pawn to your king. I'm not your world on a string. I'm not anything. Like, you can't put me in a box. You can't make me the thing that you think that I am. It's pretty good. I think this album opens really strongly because we move right from Now into Jesus Saves I Spend, the first single from the album and the only music video the album got too. St. Vincent's little brother makes a cameo in the music video, or a guest appearance, depending on how we define that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know if we ever figured out how we define that.
I don't know if it matters much. He's in there, and that's all you need to know. What a fun song this is, with those little chorus bum-bum-bums. She kind of gets to sing over her own, like, dubbed vocals so much. And there's a cool, the concept of saving and spending, you hear it first, and you're like, oh, saving and spending money. But then, like, obviously, it pivots into a religious context. Jesus is saving, like, souls, and I'm spending my days, I'm spending my time doing other things. And there's such, like, a dissonance there that's really interesting to explore. While people are spinning like toys on Christmas Day, I'm inside a still life. She kind of puts herself in a separate place from all of that stuff, even though it's happening at the same time. It's really interesting.
That is interesting.
There's a really wild bridge sometime after 2 minutes. Like, everything slows down and gets a little more floaty. And then we kind of jump right back into the happy-go-lucky, normal background vocals. There's that squeaky, high-pitched melody that sings along. Like, there's so many cool little elements to Jesus Saves I Spend. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of color symbolism here.
I just really like that opening bum, bum, bum.
Right. It's a nice way to build on the group vocals we had in Now. I'm not. And you're like, okay, well, that's cool. This takes that little burst of it that we get and extends it into a more pivotal, a more integral part of the song.
I actually think I like this one better than Now, which is not what the plays suggest I should feel.
Yeah, but I think that's what I would suggest you feel, myself, personally.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think Jesus Saves I Spend is an easier song to digest in a lot of ways than Now.
That's fair.
It feels a little more comfortable than Now, which I said was a little eerie and just like it kind of tweaks your ear a funny little way. Jesus Saves I Spend doesn't really have those problems for me. You kind of flow through it a little more naturally.
That's fair.
Yeah. Well, Ballad Guy, what did you think about Your Lips Are Red? It's a very intense song, a tonal pivot from Jesus Saves I Spend.
Yeah, I don't even know is it really considered a ballad?
Kind of. She said that Your Lips Are Red was my stab, no pun intended, at a murder ballad.
Okay, murder ballad I can accept.
Is it really a ballad? Oh yeah, it's definitely a murder ballad.
Yeah, well, when you put it in the context of murder ballad.
We don't have a lot of murder ballads here.
No.
But again, more color symbolism. My face is red, my hands are black, the city's red, the city's black.
Yeah, and maybe that's why, going back to the album art's all gray, right?
Yeah.
Nothing's popping in the picture, but it's to make the music pop and all the color imagery.
I think it works. Definitely a lot of color symbolism, and it does pop, I think, especially because the album is so gray, but then it's so colorful, lyrically and instrumentally.
I agree.
This song gets unsettling. This song does a great job at creating tension. It's a murder song, and it's actually one of St. Vincent's personal favorite tracks, but, like, there's dissonance in the instruments.
Yeah.
There's, like, piano trills at 1:40, and there's weird rhythmic things with the background vocals, words right from my lips, words right from my lips. Just it's dissonant. Like, what a roller coaster. And it's dissonant in a way that's so intentional. It's not just keys mashing. It's designed to kind of make your skin crawl a little bit. And again, such cool lyrics. My face is drawn. My face is drawn on with this number 2 pencil. Your face is drawn from drawing words right from my lips. Your skin's so fair, it's not fair. There's just so many little things. A creepy little murder ballad.
Creepy little murder ballad. I think it's my least favorite of the 3 so far, but it's a cool, it's very unique.
Yes.
Which makes it interesting. I'm glad I've heard it, but it's not necessarily something I'll be back to.
No, and I think that's my vibe for a lot of the album. There are some standout tracks that I like and I come back to a lot, But I think this album works really well as a collection of songs. I think it's more of an art situation than a music situation too. It borders, we've talked before with like artists like Radiohead. Sometimes that's the way the album goes. It becomes a statement piece. It becomes less music-y and more arty, and I think St. Vincent edges into that territory.
That's fair.
But not in a bad way. Up next, we get a title track, but again, I think it's backwards where the album got the name first from the Arrested Development bit. It's Marry Me. Marry Me was a fast favorite for me.
Really?
Yeah, this is a ballad. No murder involved.
This is a ballad, yep.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know that.
We don't know that. Well, we kind of do, because St. Vincent ended up writing a trilogy about this character, John. Marry Me is the first in her what's called the Johnny trilogy. So he lives to 2 other songs at least.
And then maybe he's murdered.
Maybe he's murdered after that, but time will tell. It's just such an interesting song because that soft piano intro, great melody, and then it kind of kicks up with the drums and goes into this really poignant, really hooky, really easy to sing along with little verse, right? The way it kind of shuffles its way through till the next chorus, the whole complexion of the song changes. And the lyrics are so interesting. She said, I think it's entirely possible to be in a romantic relationship, but also be absent. And by all sorts of tangible accounts, you're in a relationship, but it's very possible to be out wandering in your mind. She said it was sort of a comment on an American belief and a comment on sometimes these symbols that are upheld throughout culture tend to be really, really empty in themselves. These things that are really binding that are actually real. She said it was a comment on all symbols of stability, which is also a comment on never really questioning commitment. So that's what these lyrics are kind of all about, the hollowness that she feels in this relationship. Marry me, I'll be good to you, I'll be so sweet to you that you don't even realize that I'm emotionally checked out from this relationship.
Wow.
I know, right? The lyrics are so good. People want to make love, make money, make friends. People want to have ambitions, people have goals, but mostly they want to win the game. They're here to get this one thing, this tangible symbol of, I did it. They're here to get in the relationship, to have a relationship. And there's so many, you're a rock with a heart like a socket. I can plug into it will. Like when it's convenient for me, I can take that energy. And will you guess when I come around next? Right? Oh, marry me. I'll be so good to you. I'm checked out of this relationship and it's fully a matter of convenience. I love just the sentiment there. It is a song that says a lot in a way that's like perfectly delivered. The song doesn't feel like a song where you've checked out of the relationship. It feels like a sweet little love song.
Yeah.
But man, take 2 seconds to listen to the lyrics and
And what's the term for that again? What's it called? It's called where it has like 2 meanings. What's it called?
that's that same polysemous
Polysemous. Okay.
nature of the lyrics that I was talking about earlier. It's such a good song. And again, the background vocals really sell it for me in a lot of ways. They just do a great job. And then we kind of move into another eerier song. We get a lot of darker tones, a lot more brass instruments and stuff on Paris is Burning. Paris is Burning is a wild song because on the surface level, it's a song about the end of World War II and an American soldier who's in Europe watching Paris burn, right? Paris was a major target in World War II.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then there's a more modern context, right? This album was written in 2006, came out in 2007. That allegory of a soldier seeing war-torn Paris, that allegory is telegraphed over this song inspired by and written for victims of Hurricane Katrina.
Huh. That's not what I expected you to say.
No?
I keep forgetting what time period this is.
Yeah. I mean, is that because it's ahead of its time or because it feels behind its time?
Or
Or does it feel like it has a time?
Yeah, I think it was ahead of its time.
I think that makes sense. Yeah.
This feels more modern than Hurricane Katrina.
I mean, it slightly is, but yeah.
Well, yeah.
Again, that's the deeper level. But she said, human history was kind of on my brain because we're in wartime. Again, 2005. She said, so I was thinking about how it's funny that some wars, by the virtue of 100 years or 50 years or 200 years, can be glorious or romanticized or what have you. She said, for me, it was sort of an examination of that, the reality versus the romanticism of war. And I think that's true. I think a lot of elements of war have been romanticized. We don't realize how Paris is burning sometimes, like how horrible that was, because we're so removed from it.
Sure.
Dance, poor people, dance and drown. Dance fair Paris to the ground. There's some cool tempo changes in here. She turns it into a waltz at one point. Just a lot of really interesting rhythms and stuff. I love the intensity of a song like Paris is Burning. And Paris as an image comes up later in the album. I like that once we get this deep into the album, a lot of the lyrics and themes start to echo each other.
Yeah.
It makes for a good full circle kind of situation.
The instrumentation on this album is, again, we've had a lot of really good instrumentation albums as of late.
Yeah, I'm trying to help you discover, your discovery. Got to get all out there. I think the instrumentation, again, for a homemade bedroom album, All My Stars Aligned boggles my mind. You can sit at a piano in your house or a keyboard in your bedroom and make a song like All My Stars Aligned. Oh, it's gorgeous.
I could do it.
Well, maybe with enough time and practice. I mean, the infinite number of monkeys with an infinite number of pianos. Yeah, probably.
Well, you're trying to say I couldn't do it right now?
Yes.
How dare you?
Bluntly, yes. Well, All My Stars Aligned, obviously, it's a song about superstitions. I've got my stars and signs and charms and amulets. I'll do rain dances. Like, I'll do all this stuff to keep my life in order, to collect this love, build a nest for us to sleep in. She names a lot of these superstitions. How many of these do you subscribe to personally?
I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious.
That's a stolen quote.
It's a very funny quote, though.
Yeah, it is.
It was more of a reference than a quote.
Okay, well.
Got him. I don't know if I subscribe to any of these, though.
You don't think? You don't care about the sidewalk cracks?
No, I'm really not that superstitious.
That makes sense. You're an engineer.
I do sometimes do the cracks in the sidewalk thing, but more as like a measure of the engineer in me coming out.
Yep.
Like trying to see like, oh, how many steps is my walk pattern evenly distributed so that I never hit one of the cracks. I don't know. I get weird about it. It's not like a superstitious thing. It's more of a fun game.
Right. Yeah, no amulets, no charms, no palm reading, no crossing fingers. Anyway, I like the pivot of this song. She starts by saying, yeah, I'm checking all this stuff. I'm doing all my astrology. I'm doing all my superstitions. And I mean, by the time we get down to the latter part of the song, there are no signs. There are no stars, no amulets, nothing. There's just this human heart that's built with this human flaw. I love that. What a good change. I just think All My Stars Aligned is a really well-arranged song. Pretty strong production piece.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
This next one, the way the whole like record skip at the beginning of the Apocalypse song.
Yeah. The Apocalypse song. We're getting dark on this album.
It got me.
It got you? Did you think there was a mistake?
Yeah, it got me to look over and be like, what? What's going on here?
Perfect. Yeah, we've gotten dark. I mean, we started with deep, but pretty surface like Now and Jesus Saves I Spend and Your Lips Are Red is murdery. This album gets really deep really fast.
Sure.
Right? By track 3, we're talking about murder. Then we're talking about the hollowness of relationships. Paris is burned to the ground. Our superstitions are worthless. The Apocalypse song is about the end of the world. But it's kind of got a positive spin on it. Don't let the fear of the apocalypse, don't let worrying about the end of the day ruin how you're living your life now. Guess you're afraid of what everyone is made of. Man, she just finds really good melodies, really easy ways to deliver all these heavy messages. Because again, this is just like the darkest, the most intense, like thought-provoking stuff. And it's just in this nice little package that sounds intuitive and easy. And it's simple enough you can make it in a bedroom, but complicated enough that you need 3/4 of a music degree to do it. Like, that dichotomy is really cool.
It is cool.
What did you think of that breakdown section, kind of 2 minutes and change into this one, where you just get a lot of claps and dissonant vocals going time.
I like the claps, the dissonant vocals, whatever.
I think it brings us back to that eerie sort of feeling of Now and other places on this album. I think the dissonance of it makes it feel even sweeter when she comes back in with a normal melody. What did you think about the instrumental interlude up next? We Put a Pearl in the Ground.
Well, hang on. I have one more note, I guess, about the time vocals is while they're kind of whatever, I do like the way they set up the big intro back in.
Totally. It's a great segue because it's just pure relief when she gets back in with a normal melody after all that.
Surprisingly short song, We Put a Pearl in the Ground.
Yes, it is short. It kind of serves as an interlude, like an intro to Landmines a little bit, but it is short.
I like it though. Very quiet, sweet little piano.
Gorgeous, right? This song's interesting because she worked with David Bowie's pianist Mike Garson on this track and a few other spots. But yeah, David Bowie's pianist. She said, and this is a long quote, bear with me on this journey. She said, I was recording with the Polyphonic Spree, recording the Fragile Army, and we were holed up in January in Minnesota at our studio. They called Mike into play, Mike Garson that is. She said, we just hit it off in a really, really special way. Actually, the night after meeting and having a conversation with him, I sat down and I wrote All My Stars Aligned, and I just kind of had an idea. Wouldn't it be amazing if Mike Garson played? So the guy who played solo in Aladdin Sane, wouldn't it be amazing if that guy played this song? She said, I didn't want to ask him because I felt shy and nervous. It was a few months later and we kind of got in touch and he said, oh, what are you doing? I sent him a couple of songs I was working on. I sent him Your Lips Are Red and I sent him All My Stars Aligned just to show, wink, wink, hint, hint, this is what I'm doing. And he wrote me back and asked to play on the record. So I was like, well, okay, if you insist. She said that worked out pretty miraculously. So he's here. What a good get. What a coincidence. Up next, another characteristically dark song. Landmines, it reminds me of Paris is Burning, right? World War II. Deliberately so, I think, because again, this is where we start to hear a lot more of those lyric echoes. I put a pearl in the ground is a line that she says right in this song.
Yeah.
She says, save the ring, kind of reminds me of Marry Me. She says, let's bring Paris right here. It's really interesting. I'm crawling through landmines just to know where you are, just to be where you've been. I'm putting myself in harm's way. I'm following you through the fire, through this really perilous situation, because I'm that devoted to you, like at my own expense. I'm chasing this. And there's some intense imagery. One arm in and one arm gone.
Some intense imagery. Yeah.
It's dangerous. Landmines are no joke. They can explode.
Indeed. And cause one arm to be still in your body or attached to your body, one to be out.
Yeah. It's another song that's really on the artsier side and not one I come back to often because it's so intense.
It's just an artsy album.
It is. It's beautifully constructed. There's just so many different movements and so many different pieces to Landmines. Well, I guess which is an awful thing because Landmines kind of blow you into several pieces. But, you know, there's drums in there that kind of sound like a march tempo to them. Landmines is all right. It's an important track for the album, but it is a little long, and I don't think it ends up sticking with me particularly well.
No. The mood of it, though, does.
The mood of it is there, and it's important, yeah. I will say, though, much like I said, Marry Me kind of hooked me right away. Another song that is just, it hooked me so fast and was like, oh, I love this song and I need more exactly like this in my life. Human Racing. Wow.
As opposed to Pigeon Racing, which we have talked extensively about on this podcast.
We have. We've honestly talked a little bit about Human Racing, but not as much as Pigeons, probably. Human Racing, this, you could make a case for me that she's the 26th best guitarist. Listen to this song. The way it's constructed, the major seventh chords, I'm a sucker for that style. It's just picked and played so well. There's so many rhythmic things happening. The title is awesome, right? Human Racing, it's like a pun. We're racing through this life. We're all a part of the human race. People always want more, right? Hummingbird, what's the word? Are you still your mother's child, or have you found yourself a flower? Have you broken out from underneath that wing and like found your own way? Flower child, you're still wild. Under a harvest moon, can we eat all the fruits of our youth? Man, it tackles so many elements of the human experience through these clever little metaphors and these little rhetorical questions. It's awesome.
I'll be honest, I was distracted by the trombone.
And the brass, of course.
Yeah.
No surprises, but I think they're great. They add a really nice dynamic to this song. Human Racing is almost certainly my favorite song on this album. Probably my favorite St. Vincent song, period.
Okay.
I just love it. It's just awesome. It's everything that I like about St. Vincent in one really happy-go-lucky little song that is still, again, just so much to dig into there. But we close out with another ballad that I think is also pretty strong. Honestly, I think this album is front and back loaded. The middle slows down for me a little bit.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Yeah, but What Me Worry, excellently written. It's another kind of little waltz time song. Another little, what's it in, 6/8?
Yeah, I think 6/8 is right.
And I just think it's ironic. What, me worry? I never worry. It's like, no, I never worry, but also, what if I opted to disappear? I'm in no hurry, but there's just so much to it.
You don't see a lot of artists use the word panache.
Panache. That is a rare one. Endure lash after lash with panache.
With panache.
Pretty good. I like that she says in the spring, I'll dust off my loot.
So we may be spoiling our playlist picks a little bit by saying this.
Oh.
But if your favorite was Human Racing, mine was What Me Worry.
Not surprising. I kind of expected that from you.
So, assuming we decide to go with our favorites, we might be doing a back-to-back end of album playlist pick.
Maybe. Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, and this is getting a little bit into Final Spin territory.
Well, we can tease it. We're almost there.
What Me Worry actually made me lower my score of the album, like my opinion of the album.
Whoa, what? And you're still...
Yeah.
It's your favorite, and you're picking it for the playlist, and it made you lower your score?
Uh-huh. Not necessarily by like a whole number or anything, but just like my opinions on the album worsened. Because I liked What Me Worry so much, it made me, like, I had an idea of what this album was and what St. Vincent, like, could be as an artist, right, on this album.
Like the potential?
The potential, and then What Me Worry came, and it made me just recontextualize the whole rest of the album and what it could have been.
Wow. Okay.
I really enjoyed What Me Worry.
That's good.
Not just the brass and the flowy instrumentals, but the lyrics are great, and the feeling, right? It has everything. Like, some of these songs I was like, oh, the feeling's there, right? Like Landmines.
Yeah.
Didn't really stick with you, but the feeling's there.
Yeah.
Some of them we were talking about how good the lyrics are. Other ones were talking about the instrumentation, right? Mm-hmm. This one had it all. And I was like, why? Where was this? Why couldn't more of the album be like this?
Yeah, that's fair. You know, it is worth mentioning too that this is a debut album. That this is 2007. Like, she has put out a lot more music since then, and her style and sound has evolved significantly. So maybe new stuff would be better. Maybe it's different. I don't know. I have listened to some other St. Vincent albums, scored some of them too, but I haven't done anything too recent yet. Maybe I should. But anyway, I think that is good for Final Spin. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's basically my thoughts on it. I'll kind of let you do your thing, and then I'll get into my top 3 and everything. But overall, I enjoyed the album. It was cool to listen to. Not really coming back to a lot of it, but What Me Worry.
That's just it.
If she's got an album out there that's more like What Me Worry, I want to know about it.
There you go. Might be worth looking into. For me, totally agree that this isn't an album that I come back to a lot. And even the biggest songs that I like the most from it, I don't come back to a lot. But I think it's a really fascinating album. The balance between the music that flows so smoothly and simply and like creates that mood, and then the lyrics that play with your emotions and like contort your thinking in really funky ways that you're not really used to thinking like. I think it's really cool. It's a great sounding album. It's an awesome debut record. I mean, it's a piece of art album, and to make something like this from your debut, I mean, I'm with the critics. What a strong indicator of where the rest of your career is headed. I'm giving the music on Marry Me a 94. I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, those moments of dissonance and those moments of tension, those bits where she switches into a waltz tempo or like plays with finger picking on the guitar, adds brass instruments in. Like, everything has its own little rhythm and its own little melody. And I think a lot of parts of this album almost tick like a clock. And it's like so finely tuned in the way that it's written musically. I just really like it. 94 there is pretty high. Given the lyrics a 90, this album pulls no punches when it comes to tackling dark songs, but it also doesn't ever feel like it's punching you. When we talk about the apocalypse, we talk about self-sacrifice for the sake of learning the person you love. You talk about the struggles of the human race. You talk about the hollowness of marriage. You talk about missing salvation because you're spending all your time in a still life painting. Like, there's a lot of really involved elements at play, like physical peril, emotional damage, spiritual dryness. Like, it's all handled with the same level of tact and intrigue. 90 on the lyrics. Instruments and production, I'm also giving a 90. Love a bedroom produced album. The instruments are so good. Everything from the piano from David Bowie's Garson on We Put a Pearl in the Ground. Like, man, What Me Worry gets like a full orchestra behind it at some points. Marry Me with its piano intro, the background vocals used as instruments. So many cool pieces happening here. Overall vibe 92. Just enjoyable. Again, tough because it's not an album I come back to a lot, but I think it's an album that's really good. So I think it deserves a pretty high score. And that high score ends up for me, honestly, maybe being surprisingly high. It's a 93 overall. That puts it at number 32. Controversially, that's above Elton John in Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. However, the only time that this scores higher than that is in lyrics, right? With the caveat that Elton John did better at everything else but lyrics. And that's because this is a tight album, right? It's 11 tracks. It's not the 17 or 18 that were on Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. There's no Tell Me Grace Seal, How Does It Feel, right? No, All the Young Girls Love Alice. There's a lot less fluff in the lyrics department on Marry Me. So that's the caveat. It ends up also below Jukebox the Ghost and Safe Travels, which is an album that I admitted on its episode I probably have a fair bit of personal bias towards. So yeah, that's pretty up there. Number 32. I'm curious where it lands for you. I don't suspect it'll be quite that high. This sounds like an album that you respect more than you like.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it's a debut album. It's a strong debut. I think it's a very artistic. Knowing what I know about St. Vincent and their flair for the artistic, I think this album makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I can appreciate how others appreciate this album.
Reasonable take, yeah.
I've kind of already said what I have to say about the album as a whole, so my top 3 in album order. Jesus Saves, I Spend.
No Now Now.
Marry Me.
Rightfully so. That'd be in my top 3 for sure.
Honorable mention to Human Racing.
Also in my top 3, obviously.
And What Me Worry, which will also be my playlist pick.
What, you pick What Me Worry?
Yeah.
Nice.
My score, I'm giving this album 6 Vincents out of 10.
6 Vincents.
Apparently 6 more Vincents than you know.
I know some. I named Van Gogh.
All right, 5 more than you know.
Now I know a lot more because you said a lot of them. And now I need to watch Men in Black and the other movies that you said.
Dude, I can't. Full Metal Jacket's a good movie.
Full Metal, that's the other one, yeah.
That's like a classic. You definitely know the guy I'm talking about because you've definitely seen memes with him.
I've never seen that man in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Never seen that meme?
Nope.
What about... Oh, you've probably seen it maybe more in this context.
Never seen that in my life.
Really?
Never seen this image in my life.
It was memed a lot.
That doesn't even make sense to me.
What about this guy?
I have seen that.
Or also this version of that guy?
I don't know that version of the guy.
Okay. Well, those are all from Full Metal Jacket.
You might as well just be showing me random people, but it's okay.
Well, one of them was named Vincent.
Right. So 6. Where in your 6s is it going?
Yeah, it's going to go right... You know, we're just going to put it at the bottom. We're just going to put it at the bottom of the 6s.
Bottom of the 6s, right below Parachute down there. Above Gabrielle Aplin. Another interesting point of comparison for this album. At least English Rain was.
Yeah.
Her later stuff, not so much, but yeah. Well, perfect. 6 Vincents down there below the Mad Libs.
Yep. I like Vincent.
Yeah, okay. That's good. I think I, in general, like St. Vincent, but I do love this album. Because I listened to Actor, at least, and it did not score quite so well as Marry Me. So I haven't really been back to the well too much since then, but
I see.
But I should. Actor, for me, it's down there in like the 580s.
Oh, wow.
Quite a jump from 32 to 580 in 2 years. So I don't know. Maybe I just needed to give it a better listen, but yeah. Let's talk playlist picks.
I already told you mine.
Yeah, you're taking What Me Worry. Yes, I'm going to take Human Racing or Marry Me. Yeah, Marry Me is a little similar to What Me Worry. So I guess I'm going to take Human Racing. And that'll solve it. Easy enough. Well, that's going to do it for another episode of Spin It. I have been James. That has been St. Connor.
Hey.
What?
You brought it back. You told me not to get used to it, so.
Oh, I know. I brought it back, and I said it after the Factor Spin, too.
But now I'm kind of used to it.
No, don't get used to it.
I mean, 3 times. That's.
If you want more content, you can find us on social media at SpinItPod Official on Instagram and at SpinItPod on X and everywhere else. You can also visit our website at www.spinitpod.com. Come back next week for an episode that is probably not going to be special in any way, shape, or form. Just given our track record.
Dang.
But hey, look, I'm just being honest. Tune in and find out. We'll see you next time.
Take somebody to the Pink Interview Cube and tell them about the podcast.
Yeah, get somebody in your womb room and invite them to...
No.
Well, Pink Interview Cube.
Yeah.
And tell them about the podcast. That'd be cool.
Gosh, well, on that horrible disappointment.
Yeah, rate, like, subscribe, 5 stars.
Keep spinning.
What would you dress up as to raise money? You know, the giant purple toilets take it.
Well, obviously, I'm the saint of sandwich makers, so a sandwich.
Oh, you dress up like a giant sandwich? Like what kind? Pineapple and mayonnaise, like Alan Jackson?
Like the one that you always see in the Scooby-Doo shows.
Oh, like the big, tall club sandwich with the olive on a toothpick for some reason?
Yep, yep.
I'd pictured that just like a full body costume. Just, you're such a tall sandwich.
What a compliment. You make one tall sandwich.
Well, at first I pictured like a vertical sandwich where the slice of bread was facing outward and your head was in it, you know, and then your body was kind of where the sandwich is.
Sure.
But you're talking vertical sandwich, like bread at the ankles, bread at the head.
Bread all the way throughout, really, but then also a bunch of meats and cheeses.
Bread all the way throughout? You're just talking about a loaf.
No, just little slices of bread. You know, you got like bread, cheese, meat, cheese, bread, cheese, meat.
It's me, Connor, Saint Loaf.
Honestly, I hate it when they put more than 2 pieces of bread in a sandwich.
Really? Like the Big Mac?
Yeah, Big Mac be so much better without that third bun.
Then it's just kind of a double cheeseburger.
Yeah, you don't want the third one.
What kind of patron saint of sandwiches are you?
One with sandwich hacks.